So, Chad, let me ask you a question.
Yeah, anything.
You ever notice that Rosie the robot from the Jetsons has a lot of back?
I don't know if I ever. I'm sure I noticed it. Did
She's got a
I?
lot of junk in the trunk.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's where her processor is.
My other question is, how does she move around on those little roller skates? Like it looks like one set of skates on the bottom of her. How does she balance all that junk?
Well, that's the thing is the gyros. She does a lot of gyrating with the gyros,
Right,
and
gyros. That's a good answer. So anyway, that's what we're talking about today: are robots and the
oh, I thought it was
prop.
asses. We're not talking about asses.
We could do that. We'll save the asses show for another one. But yeah, today we're talking about robots and the future that was promised to us.
No, we've been ripped off. It's all a sham, a lie. The year 2000 was nothing. Look, we're 22 years past the year 2000. We still don't have flying cars. We've got some drone like things. We didn't get jetpacks. We didn't get lightsabers. We didn't get land speeders.
Yeah.
The world is a lie.
Well, you know what's, in my opinion, what's causing that problem? Why we don't have laser guns and robots that were promised is it's batteries. It's a portable power source that's very powerful. Is what we really need. Like in Star Trek, the answer to everything in Star Trek, why they have spaceships and ray guns and all that stuff is because the dilithium crystals, right? That's their answer to power. It's just a magical thing that can be put into everything. Kind of like in Star Wars with the kyber crystals or what power the lightsabers, right? It's just a mysterious power source.
Well, and
that's what we need, right?
We had H.G. Wells in First Men on the Moon.
Mm-hmm.
His answer was a new metal that reacted to the earth and repelled it like a magnet.
Right.
But again, it's like, in order to have these fantastic things, we have to pretend and make other stuff up. We can talk about the dilithium crystals in Star Trek because they obsess about it, but Star Trek is science fiction, right? Everybody else is that fantasy world where droids just work. Even though on like R2's head and R5D4 like that, those biotech droids, is that
they're astromechs. Astromech droids.
Yeah. They look like little solar panels, and we know that R2 recharges.
Yep.
Right. There has to be some sort of charging device. But when I think of like say Robbie the robot, who has like this big glass dome, is there like a solar effect in there? I guess somebody along the way said, Robbie is like the perfect name for a robot because it's Rob. Well,
pretty much. You want to, even when I've gone through a couple of different robotic vacuums here. None of them have ever really worked, but we always got to name them, right? And you can't name him Robbie, but like the Samsung one we call him Sammy, right? Like you tend to personify these things. So when the first person, a robot is being used by a military crew, kind of like it is in Forbidden Planet, then of course everyone's going to name the robot.
Yeah.
And you're going to name him Robbie the robot.
And here we are in 2022. And I think Honda, is it Honda? I think it's Honda. They got a somersault robot who climbs and jumps and, flips in the air and always lands on his feet mostly.
Yeah.
But does what?
I researched that. Found that as Asimo, I think that's what it's called, and they discontinued that apparently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're still not building them. Maybe there was an accident at the Honda facility that nobody wants to talk about.
79 people were strangled and bludgeoned by a robot arm,
exactly.
But they can't seem to find the robot arm.
What really interested me in the original Star Wars was in A New Hope was they kind of built a world with droids in it, because you saw C3PO and R2-D2, and then there were sort of different models of those two, right? Like you mentioned, what is it, R3-D4, like the red one that kind of
R5-D4,
kind of. It's neat when I watch Star Wars, they kind of make a thing like maybe the whole film's going to be C3PO with this red droid, right? That just kind of self-destructs while it's rolling off the line. Right. And then they're like, C3PO convinces them to pick up R2-D2. But it's kind of neat that there's different models of the same thing. And you see a few different versions of C3PO, like there's a silver one and There's the stupid one that I guess he was C3PO that Anakin Skywalker built apparently, and the trashy Phantom Menace.
There's my favorite, that 000.
It's a menace to movies.
000 from the Star Wars comic.
Oh yeah, those are the murderous ones, right?
The murder droids. Love them.
That are the same thing, only they're killing people.
Exactly. And they're all like, oh, very matter of fact, I'm going to now stick razor blades under your fingernails. Come along.
Yeah, those are great.
They were great. I think that, you have C3PO is he's what the robot. He's really the robot everybody wants. Nobody really wants an R2-D2.
Right. Well, R2-D2 is a robot we would get.
Yeah. Well,
but
that's
C3PO is the dream, right?
It's called the Rumba, right?
Exactly. With a cat on it.
Exactly.
There's no scene where a cat was riding R2-D2. There really should have been. If Lucas is really as prescient as he likes to believe.
But what was his name? The Salo,
yeah, Salo, I think.
Salo. So it's funny
Sirens
because
of Titans.
C3PO is really, he's kind of like, he's the remake of Ultron, and Ultron and C3PO are both the sort of the babies of Sasso.
Will Sasso from Mad TV.
Will Sasso went back in time and had 2 robot babies. One was bad, one was good. Neither was.
Sounds like a comedy sketch.
But I think that Salo is really, he is exactly C3PO.
Yeah, he's very calm and very
emotional.
Yeah, trying to suck up to Rumsfeld or whatever his name was.
Yeah, and he gets his feelings are hurt, and he's like tries to like make it up to him, which is very C3PO.
Yeah.
Like,
he had these interesting feet, Salo, that would go up into little balls that he'd run across it, and then if he had to go across water, he'd inflate them.
Yeah, he's kind of like the maid there from Jetsons.
Exactly. These little, it must have been gyros helping him out.
Ultron is he's built very much like that as well. Like if C3PO and Ultron, even though they're very different, are ultimately the sort of, they were born out of Salo. Salo is like, I guess that's early 60s. Prior to him, you have like one of the great robots from the day the Earth stood still,
Gort.
Gort.
Yeah.
And he's again that very sort of man-shaped laser beam from the eye kind of guy.
It seems to me like Gort is probably a scary version of the Tin Man, right? It's just like metal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like square metal.
So they could have just, in Washington, they should have just hoped it would rain. And then it would have all been over.
Yeah. Rusty.
Gort would be like, oil can.
Instead of Barada Nikto, it'd be like oil can. Oil me.
What was that robot from Metropolis?
Maria. It's behind me here.
Yeah, there's the one. And
it definitely gave the visual appearance to C3PO, because you just totally see it.
And not to mention what's her name from Spaceballs?
Oh yeah, that's the guy. Hey, that's hilarious. That's Rosie the Robot in real life. So I'm just sharing. I'm just putting them side by side. You can definitely see the visual cues that
look
Lucas
at the legs and arms.
Yeah, totally. And even C3PO kind of has a thing, the disc in his sort of abdomen.
Yeah. And I like in the seam, the head seam, right? Like she has the detail down the nose, but the way that you can see that the front and back are just screwed together. They're bolted together.
Right.
Same thing on both.
Yeah. Even the shoulders too, right?
The funny thing about the droids in Star Wars is that, you have this cross section where sometimes they make perfect sense. Like with C3PO, he's human-like. So if he is human cyborg relations.
Yeah, he's a protocol droid.
Right. So that's fine. Humans are going to want him to look human so that although he looks human, he doesn't look like Wookiee. Right.
Right. He's a bipedal, I guess, humanoid.
It's our arrogance again. He's got to be a human guy. But and then, R2
R2-D2 is just an astromech that just attaches to the side of spaceship, so he's a tin can, right, with magnetic wheels or whatever.
He's a hard drive, and you have like all these different robots do different things, like that great robot from Rogue One, the tall,
oh my god,
tall one.
Great, that was a great robot. I can't even remember what his designation is, but that's one of my favorite scenes in that film, which is a great film. Is they're all looking for the girl who's gone looking for her father or whatever, and the guy has a knapsack and he gives it to that robot. He gives it to the droid and goes, okay, take this, go back to the ship. And the robot just takes a look at it and just goes, meh. Drops it onto the ground. Doesn't give a shit.
Jin, I'll be there for you. Cassian said I had to.
Unlike that, in that terrible robot in Solo.
That's right.
Right. It's like it's like
got the weird butt sticking up in the air. It had legs that were attached to the side and it just went.
Yeah. What was she designed for? Apparently.
And then childbearing. I guess she had childbearing hips. And
no,
then,
but wasn't Lando having a thing with
Lando
her?
just broke down and wept on the battlefield when his droid gets mangled. Come on, get it together, Lando.
Five Nights in Freddy,
Totally. That's Five Nights at Freddy's just making fun of, or just taking a cue from, Pirates of the Caribbean or whatever. They have the robots.
Well, Jungle Cruise, right? So I just watched Jungle Cruise with The Rock.
Yep.
And Emily Blunt, and that's based on a ride at Disney World that were all animatronics.
Right. All the elephants.
The story's all bullshit.
Putting the trunk up and going, spraying water on people.
In the Amazon. Because that's where the elephants and the hippos are. Right.
Yeah.
And
not being eaten alive by piranha in like 2 seconds. Oh my God.
In the movie, that hippopotamus aren't native to this to the Amazon.
Do they say shh, shh, shh?
Yeah, but it's funny because it's true that there's no hippos in the Amazon, but at the same time, from what I understand, drug lords have they have their menageries, including hippos,
right?
And then they were I don't want to take care of this, and they released them into the wild. And apparently, down in the rainforest and on the Amazon, there are now huge populations of hippopotamus.
That's hilarious.
And,
that's like in New York where they, you bring back a little alligators you're going to keep in like a terrarium, and then the alligator gets to be like 5 feet long. You're like, shit, or whatever. It gets to be too big, can't be 5 feet, but you flush it down the toilet. And then there's like a movie where he's going after alligators in the sewers of New York.
That's right. Giant albino alligators, bloodthirsty.
Just itself a cue on Jaws. And of course, Jaws had the famous robotic shark that, because it malfunctioned so much during the shoot, Spielberg had to scrap all the stuff he wanted to do in the script, and he just had to do it all without the shark just menacing in the water. And it's 10 times better that way, right? Thank God that shark malfunctioned.
That's right. And Lucas walked away from that going, I really would have liked to have known what Jaws would have been like.
Yeah, exactly.
And then he
redo it, and the shark's jumping out at you like
it's called Sharknado. Nobody knows, but really, George Lucas is behind Sharknado.
I always think of Johnny Five when I think of robots too, from the classic 80s movie Short Circuit.
Well, he's one of the nicer robots.
It's both Johnny Five and then Fisher Stevens and Brownface. Those are the two things that stand out to people when they think about Short Circuit.
And being a him, it is only being wires and servo mechanisms and other such machine-type apparatus for the Peter's sake. This set of beakers.
And then you have to say that Short Circuit is sort of a precursor to the movie Iron Giant, came out in 1999, about a robot that is lovable and befriended by a little kid, but is actually kind of a lethal military weapon.
When I think of Iron Giant, and unfortunately now it just brings me to Ready Player One. And
with Iron Giant was that?
Yeah, and it was like, right, so these are skins, but the Iron Giant is like 50 feet tall, and he has no extra powers. Why'd you have to bring up Ready Player One?
You really should see Iron Giant, because it's a really great film.
Well, I like Harry Connick.
Yeah, it's directed by Brad Bird, who of course did The Incredibles and was on The Simpsons when it started out.
Did you ever see? It was called Nine.
No, I
It
haven't
was
seen
this
that.
weird post-apocalyptic film, and this it was about the inventor of these little robots somehow imbued in them like life, and they have little fabric bodies, like almost like a rag doll.
Yep.
And and they go through this strange little adventure trying to understand existence and their existence. It's a brilliant Pinocchio story.
All right. Well, you're mentioning Pinocchio. That makes me think of Data, the android from TNG, and that's really what his whole arc was through that show. Was he's trying to be human, trying to become human.
Isn't this also our failure though, as the imaginers of robots? Because we always have to put ourselves in them. They're always imperfect, and they want to be us.
I think it was Q that told Data that you can aim so much higher than becoming human.
Yeah, there you go. That's accurate.
Yeah.
So I was under the impression that Data was a little bit older, and he also, he aged a lot in the years.
He did, yeah.
From
exactly.
TNG
It's crazy. He's got crow's feet at the end, year 7 in TNG, and then they did the movies and he just kept getting fatter and worser.
Oh shit!
But
Turtle that robot.
In Picard, it's funny. It's not with the Data, but Q shows up in the 2nd season of Picard, and he shows up, and I guess they youngify him. You know how they do? They put the cameras on him and they film him, and then they erase all the crow's feet and stuff. And he looks like a Q of TNG, and he goes, "Oh, you've grown so old, Picard. Here, let me catch up." And he snapped his fingers, and he's old John Delancey, right? And it's a great way of explaining it, right? Of why Q, the immortal, would look old. He's like just trying to make Picard feel better.
They always want things to go haywire because humans don't want to admit that if we made robots that were as actually functioning and operated through with AI, they might ultimately become better than us.
Right.
Like the Twilight Zone episode with the robot baseball player.
Yeah, that's a classic.
He was a great best baseball player ever.
But then they give him a heart. They have to give him a heart because you need like 9 men. They say in that episode, right? You need 9 men, and he's not a man. He doesn't have a heart.
Mm-hmm.
There's a funny line. Jack Warden is the coach in that episode, and he's great. Jack Warden, I love him as an actor. And he's like, they say, "Oh, he can't play baseball. He doesn't have a heart." And Jack Warden, as a coach, he points at the manager or the owner of the team. He goes, he owns half the team, and he doesn't have a heart. So it's kind of funny. But and then they give him a heart so he can keep playing, and then he gets sad because he doesn't want to strike people out. They're going to feel sad when he strikes them out, so he just stops being able to do it, and that's the end of his career as a baseball player. When you talk about what practical robots do we have now, and the really only thing you can point to that's becoming sort of mainstream is the Tesla auto-driving car, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're stuck with. We're supposed to be flying through the air like in The Fifth Element, and that really terrific scene from where they're on Coruscant in Star Wars. Actually, I was looking at stats, and it turns out, like right now, there's 60,000 Teslas that are certified with this full self-driving mode. They call it FSD. Out of 60,000 Teslas registered for that, there's only been 12 deaths. But I think that's a pretty good number. If you took 60,000 humans, did a sample, and then saw how many accidents or even deaths were caused by them, there'd be way more than 12 in like the years. Like it's been about 5 years, I think. Yeah, exactly.
Drive in Toronto today.
In Toronto.
Like worst drivers in the world.
What's funny, speaking about Toronto, is the Tesla cars, they're geofenced not to operate in full self-driving mode in downtown Toronto because I guess our streetcars screw them up, which is crazy because the streetcars flash lights when they're going to open the doors. They stop and the lights flash. You can't recognize that Teslas.
Well, they should. Well, they can't. The new software says that they can't even recognize stop signs. You know, so I think that
is a problem.
there might be some problems with the Teslas.
Can't recognize green from red. Should we really be selling these? Sure, go ahead.
Really, we just want Ex Machina. That's it.
Yeah,
that's what all robots should be.
that was a great movie. What's funny about that is Ex Machina had a budget of only $15 million.
Wow.
And it won the best visual effects Oscar in 2014. Beat them all. It beat freaking Star Wars The Force Awakens, which you have to say is a terrible film, but had amazing effects.
Yeah.
But the effects in Ex Machina were just so like pinpoint. Like they did an amazing job on her. Alicia Vikander. She's from Sweden, you know.
I heard she was from Sweden.
She's from Sweden.
Yeah, so robots, they really got a bum steer. We should have have cool robots. We don't have cool robots. We've got driving cars and we've got vacuum cleaners and we have a whole house that listens to us even when it's not supposed to.
Right. We're much farther in development with AI than we are with robotics, just I guess because that's just the physicality of it. It's easier to program software than it is to make hardware that can actually walk around.
Yeah. Well, it's because we're pretty amazing creatures. You know, like we basically walk upright and forward by falling.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
every step is a fall.
It's an arrested fall, right?
And so we fall and we recover. We fall and we recover. And
Yeah.
suddenly we're like, you know, we've got 9-second 100-meter dashes and things like that. We do amazing things.
Yeah.
So it's hard to replicate us.
Well, you were talking about gyros, and we've got that licked, right? Using gyros like on a Segway or you know, those little wheels you'll see people running around in the city, just a unicycle that you stand on. You know, it can keep itself upright. So at least they've got the ability to keep these robots upright. But anyway, Chad, I think I'm going to compute that just about puts the last bolt in our show about robots of the future. Please, I'll ask everybody to mechanically punch that subscribe button. And you can grease our gears with a donation on our Ko-Fi page, which is linked in the description. So goodbye. Error does not compute. Kirk
That's
is
right.
creator. Creator is perfect. Kirk is imperfect. Smoke comes out of my ears.
Affirmative. We never say negative. We just say affirmative.
That's right. Do go changing into an android.
You're letting her keep it. Would you like to know the probability of her using it against you? It's high.